You're watching The Lookout, a production of the Division of World Languages and Cultural Studies here at Minot State University. I'm your host, Samuel Stinson. The Gordon B. Olson Library at Minot State University has recently celebrated its 30th anniversary here at the school and held a gathering featuring music, refreshments, and a look at some memorabilia from the library's history. Here to talk with us today about this celebration and about the library's 30 years is Jane la Plante, the director of Gordon B. Olson Library. Jane, thank you so much for being on the program today.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
So, Jane, I have just a couple questions, and then we have a brief review of some photos that you've provided, that you've been gracious enough to share from the celebration. So my first question, when did you start working with the Gordon B. Olson Library?
I started in the fall of 1989. And at that time, we were in the Memorial Library, which was where Memorial Hall is now. So it was named a different, and it was a different building.
So how is the campus and the library itself different now from how it was then? You mentioned a different location, different building.
Well, when I started in Access, my first job here was Access Services Librarian, which is circulation and interlibrary loan. And we had just converted to our very first quite primitive online catalog. So we had moved from, just the year before I started, they moved from card catalogs to an online catalog. But we weren't up on the circulation system yet. So we were still filling out the little cards and filing them. And my first job when I got here was to automate the circulation system. So we could do that. So we did that in 1991. So that was my first big project in the library, was doing that. We also, we had interlibrary loan was, we typed everything in to a primitive, very primitive email system. So people would fill out a form if they wanted a book. We'd take that and transcribe that onto an email system and send it out. And we would mail articles. And then in the early 90s, we got something called Arial, which was kind of, it was basically a scanning system that would then transmit the articles to the other library. And that was really great because it made sending articles really fast. But then later on, we got PDFs and we could just attach them to an email. So that was different. Another thing that was different was that we had computer labs. So if you wanted to use a public computer, you had to be in this little room crowded in with everybody else. And it looked like the library was empty because everybody was in the basement in the computer lab. Now we have our beautiful learning commons with computers scattered around so people can spread out a lot more. This floor, the main floor, had a lot of reference books at that time and the government documents. Reference books have become much less common in print now because either they're digitized, or in a lot of cases, you can get the information by just Googling that you used to get from reference books, like, holidays and just, information, all kinds of information, and government documents are mostly online now. So now we have lots more room for people to study and that kind of thing. Another difference was most of our budget was spent on books. We spent more, I had more money to spend just in my little area my first year than we spend on books in the whole, now way more than we spend on books altogether now. But we slowly, electronic subscriptions to databases with full text and to subscriptions to journals took over more and more of the budget. And now about 96% of the budget is spent on digital subscriptions and about 4% on books. And students, use more articles too. And another thing that has changed is our instruction. When I started, most of the instruction was giving someone a tour, or maybe showing them how to look up information in a book. And like the instead of a database, we had every year another issue of a periodical search and book would come out. So you'd have, if you wanted to look up information about history, you'd have to look in every year under your topic. So then when I was first a librarian, we got CD-ROMs that you could search. And so you could search all the years at one time. And we thought that was just great. But you still had to come into the library to search them. And then gradually they became online. But along with all this digitization has come a lot of inflation, because online resources are so popular and desirable. They're also quite expensive. And there's this myth that all information online is free, but it's not at all true. It's very expensive. I'll give you an example. We have one publication that costs $159 a year in print and $3,100 a year in online. So, and that's just one example. So it gets more expensive, and all our subscriptions go up about 5% every year. So that is a real crisis. Another thing is that our staff is much smaller. In 2007, we had 16 full-time employees, and we now have 7 full-time employees and 1 full part-time employee. So that is really a change.
It's interesting as you're saying that. I'm recalling my own experiences in a library. When I was in high school in the mid to late 90s, I would go to the college campus before I became a student there at the college, and I would spend a lot of time in the local library at the college. And I remember exactly what you said about having those computer labs, right? Having one large space where you had to get access to the internet and then find things online and then print things. And then the printouts would go to a large desk, and the person behind the desk would piecemeal them out. And there was a huge piece of paper spelling out in ASCII art almost the person's last name so they could claim their work.
Right.
And so the experience is much different. And that leads me to my question about how student habits using the library are different in now versus back then in years past. Have you noticed that many differences? You'd mentioned students gaining access to digital articles and the rise of more digital sources. Of course, I remember microfilm still being a thing. But how have student habits using the library changed over that time?
Yeah, well, the digitization of a lot of the journals and has made it so that students can, if they know what they're doing, do their research from afar. And indeed, many of our students are online now, so they have to do their work from afar. So it's, so instead of, when we look at statistics, I look at how many articles are downloaded, not how many books are checked out, because we're still being used, but we're being used in a different way. Yeah, and students really, one thing that's really changed over time is students' impatience with not having an article right there immediately. If they can't, I always tell them in instruction sessions now, don't be so quick to limit to full text, because there's lots of good articles that you could get through interlibrary loan, and we could borrow them from another library or get them to make us a copy. But no, they really want to have, if they can't find it in full text, they'll just Google or something. They're just much more impatient, and it's because they've grown up in a digital world where things are just right there. And so that we used to wait, for a week for a book or an article, but that just seems crazy to them. They do sometimes order through interlibrary loan, but they want it now. So I really have focused a lot of my energy on trying to find the resources to get more full text so that students can have what they need right away. So that's a big thing. Another thing that is interesting is students have laptops now, so they don't need our computers as much. And for a while, it was hard for them to print from their laptops, but now they can print from their laptops to our public printers, because a lot of times they can't afford toner. So they come to the library with their laptop and print. And also, if they are looking for a book, instead of jotting down or printing the call number, they'll take out their cell phones and take a picture of the call number and take it upstairs. So they're using their electronic devices all the time to do their work. And, we are continuing to change even now. In fact, next Tuesday, November 1st, we will be joining a brand new North Dakota consortium for an ebook collection on Overdrive, kind of like they use at the public library. So we're getting that. And about a year ago, we got Canopy, which is a film streaming service for libraries, so that when classes went online during the pandemic, well, we already had some, but when more classes went online during the pandemic, it became harder and harder for faculty to show films that they wanted to. So a lot of libraries, including us, felt that we really needed to have a web streaming film collection. So we're still continuing to morph more and more and more to electronic. Oh, we use Zoom now. One of the pandemic results was we started using Zoom to do research consultations with students. So if they can't or don't want to come into the library, we Zoom with them. I've Zoomed with a student in Saudi Arabia one time. We had to really work to get the time zones right, but that was really great. And it was good for him because he had been struggling, but we just quickly helped him find what he needed. So that really works great.
By the way, do instructors still use I think what it was back when I was an undergrad, they had this, I think they call it putting an item on reserve, like a textbook or a particular set of examples or papers for students. Do instructors still do that with physical materials now?
They do it actually. They do put stuff on Blackboard. They put articles in Blackboard and that sort of thing. But we have quite a few books on reserve, and we also have a program called Textbook Reserve, and we purchase textbooks. We especially seek out textbooks that are either very expensive and are present a hardship to some students who don't have a lot of money, and we also we try to buy the textbooks for large classes where a lot of people are going to be using them. And that has been very popular because textbooks are also becoming very, very expensive. And sometimes students, maybe they don't have the money right away, or they're sharing the book with their roommate, but the night before the test, they both need it, that sort of thing. So that has been a really good way to help out students. And we partner with the bookstore and buy those books from them.
So Jane has been gracious enough to provide us with many of the photographs that were present there at the 30th celebration anniversary of the Gordon B. Olson Library. So we're going to switch over and look at some of these together.
This is the Memorial Library. This library was built in 1959 when I was 2 years old. And it was right adjacent to the student union. But it was very, very crowded. It was, we just outgrew it. We really had so many books so packed in. So we had to build a new library. And that happened in 1990 to 92. And here you can see a student worker shelving books in the library. You can see how every shelf is packed. And the shelves were in the basement and they were close together. I don't think they'd be ADA compliant now for a wheelchair access or anything. It was really a dark, kind of unpleasant place. And this is a drone view of the new library, the Gordon B. Olson Library, which we are in now. And this is a picture of that man in the picture is our director, Larry Greenwood. And he was very active in making sure that everything in the new building was being done correctly. So this is the construction site. And this would have been in 1990 or 91. Because there he is, and also walking around on the top of the building, checking everything out. And this is the groundbreaking. So that would have been in September of 1990.
Now, there at the celebration earlier this year, I remember there was the actual shovel used at the groundbreaking that was on display.
We still have not only the shovel, but we have the hard hat also.
That's right. That's right. I remember that sitting out.
And this is the atrium of the library, the beautiful atrium of the library before the roof was on. And I should tell you that the music department is having a high school event, and because of the space constraints for the Hartnett Hall building, there are going to be 140 students gathered in that atrium on next Friday, practicing for their concert on Saturday night. So it's going to be an interesting day next Friday. But that atrium, as you can see with that soaring ceiling, has really good acoustics. So the music people are really happy that they're going to get to use it.
I'll just throw in there, let me know if somebody gets a chance to record that. That sounds phenomenal.
Okay.
Now, what's going on here?
Here we had student volunteers help us to move the books from the Memorial Library to the Gordon B. Olson Library. And so that was in May of 1992. And I will say that I was telling you a little bit before that during this move in May of 1992, I happened to get engaged. And then we got married in August, and then that was dedicated in September. So I never forget how old the library is. And here's some more students. We moved the whole library in 9 days. And so these nice students helped us out. I don't think we would ask students to do that now because it would be liability issues and such, but things were a little more casual 30 years ago.
That's a pretty good record, though, moving the entire collection in 9 days.
It was a big project. It really was. And this is Sandy Dahl, a Fargo artist, and she painted that beautiful picture in the background, and she came for the dedication and got her picture taken with her painting. And that painting is still hanging in the entryway of the library. And this is a picture of Walter Peel in 1992 with his paintings that he painted just for that space in the lower level of the library. And I should tell you that we're going to move those paintings up where the Sandy Dahl painting is, and we're going to move the Sandy Dahl painting to another place in the library, because with the move of the Academic Support Center to the lower level of the library, we needed to move those paintings.
Oh, I see. But they'll all still be on display somewhere, though, you were saying.
They will, yes. And this is the dedication in September of 1992. And you can see in that picture that we had our terminals, we had a brand new online catalog, and we just had those 8 little search terminals, and they were not really computers in the sense that we think of them now. You could only just search the database, and it was hooked up to a server. And it was right in front of the information desk was right behind it. We've moved that since. But yeah, you can see it was a very well attended event. And when they gave the dedication and Dr. Gordon B. Olson spoke, we had chairs outside and people sat outside on the lawn. And the gentleman that's turning and talking to the man who's standing, the gentleman in the tie, suit and tie, that's George Clark. He was a librarian here for many, many years, a very highly regarded man in the community. And there is Gordon B. Olson Library, our library's namesake. He was a president here at the library, at the university from 1967 to 1992. He was the president. So he had a long tenure here. And there's Dr. Olson talking to Brynhild Haugland. She was a Republican representative to the North Dakota state legislature from 1938 to 1990, 52 years.
Wow.
And she's from this area. So we have a nice display. We still have that display of her awards and achievements. So she's standing there by her display. And there is Larry Greenwood, our director at the time, and our cataloging and collection development librarian at that time, Susan Padragula. And Susan just retired a year ago after 41 years of service to the library. And there's the cake. You can see that cake decoration has come a long way in 30 years. It's just kind of the ABCs of library moving they put on there. Anyway, it's kind of a cute cake. And this was taken in the summer of 2010. And you can see that we had a bigger staff at that time. And let's see, who's left. Ben, the man by the tree, is still here, and I'm still here. And Jolene, who is the third person in, is still here. That's it. Only 3 people that were in that picture are still working at the library. Ben, me, and Jolene. And here is a picture of us with our masks on in 2020, during the pandemic. And during the pandemic, I should say that everybody worked from home except me. I came in every day and I did remote drive-by circulation. So people would email or call and ask for a book, and I would put their name on it, put it in an envelope, and set it out in the entryway so people could come and get their books. That was great working all by myself in this big, beautiful library.
In terms of thinking about the significance of the library and the role that it's played in the community and your own experience with it, what is that significance to you now and over the years?
To me, I feel that my life's work has been an attempt to help students who come to Minot State to learn how to find information, how to select information, and use it effectively so that they can go on to their further studies, their careers, their home lives, their personal lives, and know how to deal with information, because I think information makes a person empowered. So to the extent that I was successful in doing that, it makes me very happy. And as far as the building goes, a lot of our students are from North Dakota, not all of them, of course, but a lot of them come from small towns, and this library is quite impressive to them and big and beautiful. And I'm so glad that the city and the state and Minot State took the trouble and the money and to make this beautiful building. I think it's the most beautiful building in Minot. And I'm so happy to be able to spend my time here. And I'm so happy for our students that they have this wonderful library.
Well, we've reached that point in the program now where we have to say goodbye, but this again is the Lookout podcast here at MSU. Remember, we're here for you. So come by, drop us a line, share your memories, share your scholarship. Thanks again for watching. And as we always say at this point in the program, be seen, be heard, be inspired. Thanks again for watching. Take care.